Revenge films.
My name is Kayla, and I'm a 26-year-old office worker. I had a boyfriend in college, but since becoming a working adult and with my busy schedule, I haven't had a boyfriend and am now approaching my late 20s. I have one best friend from junior high, Amanda, who I still meet regularly even as an adult. Amanda's modest and kind, but when it comes to work, she has a very stoic side, and I really respect her for that. One day, while Amanda and I were having dinner together, she mentioned, "I think I want to start dating again." Like me, Amanda hadn't had a boyfriend since becoming a working adult. That's when I remembered that during a family gathering at New Year's, my cousin Sean had said he wanted to focus on marriage hunting. So I suggested introducing Sean to Amanda, and she was really happy about the idea. I reached out to Sean, and he was excited about the introduction. For their first meeting, I joined them for dinner, and they hit it off right away. After that, they started meeting on their own, and not long after, I heard they had started dating. A year later, Amanda and Sean got married. Watching how happy they were together at the wedding made me feel so happy, too. I never imagined that my best friend and cousin would get married, but I was genuinely happy that Amanda had become part of the family. After Amanda got married, she couldn't meet as often as before. Since she was still working, she mentioned that balancing work and housework was tough, which made me a little concerned. She especially said that cooking dinner every day was difficult and that it would take some time to get used to it. Compared to when she lived alone, she seemed to be struggling with having to cook more. At first, even though we couldn't meet, she would still reply to my texts, but eventually she started leaving my messages unread. I was worried, but not wanting to disturb her newlywed life, I decided to just wait and see. I thought about reaching out to Sean, but even though we're cousins, I figured it would probably be uncomfortable for a woman to contact him. I didn't want to make Amanda feel bad, so I decided to hold off on contacting Sean. 6 months after their wedding, I was getting really concerned because I hadn't been able to reach Amanda. So I decided to visit her and Sean's house. Since I hadn't contacted them in advance, I wasn't sure if they'd be home, but I rang the doorbell anyway. After waiting for a while with no response, I was about to leave when I heard a noise from inside. I called out, "Amanda, are you there?" And the door slowly opened. It was Amanda, who looked much skinnier and more worn out than the last time I saw her. I was shocked and asked, "Are you okay? What happened?" Then she suddenly started crying. I went inside and listened to her, and it turns out things weren't going well between her and Sean. In the beginning of their marriage, Sean was kind, but over time his attitude started to grow colder. He began saying things like,
"Just because you earn more than me, don't get too full of yourself. You're a terrible wife for not knowing how to support your husband."
As his frustration grew, Sean started eating dinner aggressively, and eventually he would eat all of it, even Amanda's share. After eating everything in sight, Sean would get angry and demand,
"I'm still hungry. Make more."
As time went on, he quickly gained weight, while Amanda, who couldn't eat dinner every day, became very skinny. The emotional abuse, combined with Sean eating all of the food, left Amanda physically and mentally drained. She wanted to divorce and escape, but since it had only been 6 months since their wedding, it felt too soon, and she couldn't bring herself to talk to anyone about it. Seeing Amanda cry and open up to me, I felt responsible, especially since I had introduced her to Sean. At the same time, I was consumed with anger towards Sean. I knew I had to help Amanda right away, or she could end up seriously harming her health. So I came up with a plan to help her. My plan was to secretly turn on a video call on my computer and invite Sean's parents to my family's house to show them what was happening. I quickly put the plan into action by telling Sean's parents I had an urgent matter and asked them to come over. Then I coordinated with Amanda and started the video call, timing it for when Sean was expected to return. Sean's parents looked confused, so I just told them, just watch, and waited for Sean to come home. About 10 minutes later, Sean came home and he appeared on the computer screen. I quickly grabbed my phone and started recording to capture evidence of his emotional abuse. As soon as he walked in, he looked at the dishes on the table and said,
"What's this? Looks like you're slacking today."
The meal that day included stew, pasta, salad, and a cheese platter, far from a lazy meal. Still unsatisfied, Sean ignored Amanda, who was preparing a meat dish, and proceeded to eat everything on the table. Sean kept yelling at Amanda, who was still in the kitchen, saying things like,
"Hurry up, you slowpoke! I'm still hungry!"
In the end, Amanda didn't get to eat a single bite of the meal she had made for both of them, and dinner time ended. Sean's parents and I were all left speechless as we watched this unfold on the screen. Without realizing what was going on, Sean started insulting Amanda even more.
"You think you can make me wait for dinner just because you earn more than I do? Who do you think you are?"
Then he threw a plate at her across the table. At that moment, Sean's father shouted,
"Enough!"
Sean looked around, confused, and finally noticed the computer.
"What the hell is this? Are you recording me? You set me up, you bitch!"
He yelled, then lunged at Amanda, but Sean's parents quickly intervened and stopped him. We rushed straight to their house. When we arrived, Sean was desperately trying to stop Amanda, who was packing her things. The scene from earlier seemed like a lie. It seemed that, realizing she had support, Amanda had found the courage to leave him. Furious, Sean's father yelled,
"I'm so disappointed in you!"
and,
"You're a pathetic excuse for a man!"
Sean tried to justify himself, saying,
"But it's embarrassing when your wife earns more than you! My pride was hurt, so I just wanted to get back at her a little!"
I was completely shocked to realize that he had done such terrible things for such selfish reasons. I helped Amanda pack her things and said, "I'm sorry I introduced you to such a man. If you're getting a divorce, make sure you get a good settlement." Amanda thanked me, saying, "Thank you for helping." As she left, she turned to Sean, who was still being scolded by his parents, and said, "I'll send the divorce papers later." She never returned to that house again. Afterwards, Sean, with his parents, went to Amanda's family home and begged for forgiveness, kneeling in front of her. However, Amanda's furious parents threw the completed divorce papers at him and kicked him out. The video I had recorded became crucial evidence of the emotional abuse, allowing Amanda to demand a hefty settlement, and the divorce was finalized. After moving back to her parents' house, Amanda quickly regained her healthy figure and her cheerful personality. For a while, she swore off relationships, so the two of us, as single women, began meeting up more often and going out for drinks like we used to. As for Sean, the divorce caused him to be severely scolded by his parents, and he was cut off by relatives as well. Since that incident, I haven't been in touch with Sean at all, but I've heard through rumors after the divorce he started binge drinking and overeating, which led him to gain a lot of weight and develop diabetes. It's hard to feel sorry for him because it's all his own fault. From now on, I plan to enjoy my time with Amanda, who is single again. When she decides to start dating in the future, I'll be there to support her, making sure she doesn't become distrustful of men.
I'm an ordinary salaryman, but I work at a small company, so I don't get any bonus. And with the car inspection I have regularly, I had to save money daily, so I was always short of money. That's why I often went to the beef bowl chain nearby. It was cheap, delicious, and made me full, so it was like an oasis for me. I was a regular customer there, so when I got to my usual seat, I ordered my usual, the large beef bowl, which cost $3. Then at the same time, a female customer who was here alone ordered the special eel bowl. She had messy blonde hair with her natural brown hair showing at the top. She wore short pants with a t-shirt and worn-out Hello Kitty sandals, and she basically looked stupid. I know I sound rude, but I honestly was surprised to see this woman who looked like she was poor could afford the special eel bowl, which I rarely ordered. And when she got her special eel bowl, she gobbled down the food so fast. I glanced at her, wondering if she won the lottery and thinking how delicious her bowl looked. And then I finished my beef bowl. She was at the cashier before me.
That would be $10.
Huh? What a ripoff!
No, your total is $10.
No way! It should be $1.
Miss, the special eel bowl costs $10.
Huh? It said $1 on the sign outside.
It says that the special eel bowl costs $10 on the menu as well.
Are you serious? I came to eat here because it said $1 on the sign outside. There's no way I'm paying.
But it does say $10 on the sign outside, though.
I'm telling you, I don't care. I only have $2 with me right now. See?
Like that, she showed what was inside her wallet. It seemed like she was telling the truth, and the staff looked helpless. While I was in line for the cashier, I quickly looked outside. When I found the sign in the parking lot, it said that the special eel bowl cost $10, large and clear. But because it was written vertically, at a quick glance you might misread it as $1. But using your common sense, there's no way a special eel bowl would only cost $1. So the staff seemed troubled, but the female customer continued.
I have no money. It's the restaurant's fault for making the sign look confusing.
She was making a fuss. Finally, the staff...
I'll call the manager, so please wait for a second.
She went to get the manager from the back, then the manager quickly appeared. Then the manager stared at the female customer's face carefully as if he noticed something, whispered something in the staff's ear, and went back to where he came from. The customer looked a bit panicked, wondering where he went to, but the staff made her wait, asking her to give them more time. I figured that it would take more time than I thought, and I wanted to go home quickly, so I wanted to pay first, and I called the staff. Then the female customer turned to me. Then she suddenly softened her expression, glanced up at me, and said,
Hey, please?
Huh? What is she asking me? My guess was that she was acting cute, using her femininity as her weapon, luring me to pay for her. But she made me feel nothing. The reason was because her face when she was acting all cute gave me chills. She had fierce eyes with single eyelids and small irises. I guess she gave me that look thinking she looked pretty, but she was definitely misunderstanding. Her small irises were gone, revealing the white parts of her eyes when she glanced up at me, so her expression resembled a hag from those old stories. And to be honest, she looked as if she wanted to pick a fight with me. And it had been long since I saw someone so crazy. So I froze, feeling chills up my spine. I'd had enough of it, and when she realized that I wasn't reacting the way she wanted me to, she changed her target to the middle-aged man who was in line after me. With her arms crossed, she approached the man with a hairstyle that looked like a barcode, and did exactly what she did to me.
Hey, oh, please.
She asked, looking like a hag. When the man saw her expression, he broke out in a cold sweat, and it was clear that she didn't make his heart flutter. He pretended to laugh and looked away. She seemed frustrated because she wasn't able to make both our hearts flutter, but a construction worker who was watching us as he ate his meal shouted, "Hey, hag! Leave them alone, you're giving me chills. You're an adult now, don't flatter guys. You better pay for your own food." He yelled at her. Then she replied,
Who did you just call a hag, you bastard?
She yelled back, and the restaurant was in chaos. I wanted to go home as soon as possible, and I really didn't want to get involved. Then the manager who went to the back returned and forcefully took her with him, saying he'll listen to her in the back. As he pulled her to the back,
Hey, what are you doing? I'm not at fault. This is a fraud. You're ripping me off.
she was making a fuss in a voice loud enough for the whole restaurant to hear. Once it was quiet again after she left, the staff apologized to me, and after I paid for my food, I left. A week later, I went to eat at the same restaurant. As soon as I went inside, I met eyes with the staffer who was here on that day. She quickly approached me and said,
I'm sorry to trouble you the other day.
She apologized to me once again. How did things go after I left? Then the staffer secretly told me. After she was taken to the back rooms, the manager asked her what happened and what her problem was. What she said was,
It's hard to read when you write numbers vertically. I know that not many people order the special eel bowl, so I bet you're deceiving customers to order them by making the price unclear. This is a fraud. I am the victim.
She barked at him. Then the manager fought back, saying her story doesn't make sense. Miss, I heard that you complained about the sign written horizontally at a different location of our chain restaurant, saying it's hard to read horizontal signs because of the wind, and refused to pay for the special eel bowl. You said it's hard to read numbers that are written vertically, but I assumed that you already knew the price.
I didn't know.
But you misread the sign at a different location of our chain, ate the same menu item, and knew the real price, right? As long as you don't lose your memory or something, there's no way you'd repeat the same mistake at the same chain restaurant.
I don't know.
Then I'll have to call the police.
Wait a minute, it was just a small misunderstanding.
But in either case, you don't have money, so you can't pay for your meal. And he really called the police. When the police arrived, she caused a scene and said,
Okay, I'll pay. I'll go get my money, so I'm never going to the police station. Get off of me!
That's what she said, but the officers looked used to dealing with these types of people and pushed her into the car, saying they'll listen to the rest at the police station. As expected from the police officers, probably because they're dealing with criminals on a daily basis, those types of women we were struggling to deal with were a piece of cake for them. She didn't have any money in her wallet, so in either case she wouldn't be able to afford her meal, so it's natural that they called the police on her. In the end, after the police did some investigation, she's been doing the same thing at other chain restaurants, complaining and basically deceiving the restaurants. So she was deemed guilty of other additional crimes as well, making her sentence longer. Well, I feel relieved that I can finally enjoy my cheap and delicious beef bowl peacefully. But if she was actually pretty, I might have fallen for her and paid for her food. But thanks to her horrendous outfit and face, we managed to get her arrested, so I think things ended well. My name is Sean. I'm planning to get married to Kathy, who I've been dating for a year. We only went to nearby places on our dates, so I assumed we'd do the same for our wedding ceremony. Huh? You want to hold our wedding at such a far place? This venue also looks pretty expensive. After we had dinner, Kathy showed me a hotel that was located far away on her phone.
What? What do you not like about this fancy hotel?
No, it's not like that.
Isn't this place so fancy? I always wanted to have my wedding here.
If my girlfriend insists, I can't help but agree. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience anyways. I do want to make her wish come true.
Having a wedding at a hotel is quite nice, actually. We can also invite many people.
Are you planning to invite that many people?
Sean, you're so cold. You only get to have a wedding once in your lifetime.
I accepted her request, and after arranging the balance, we decided to invite about 100 guests. It cost us about $60,000 total. On the day of our wedding, I had some work to do, so I almost didn't make it to the venue on time. Of course, I arrived way earlier than the guests, though. But an unexpected accident happened. Huh? You don't have our reservation? That can't happen. I made a reservation here with my girlfriend. The receptionist told me that we didn't have a reservation, so I was very confused. And I think my wife is already here. What? She's not here? I was getting even more confused. We officially got married the other day, and Kathy became my wife. She knew I would arrive late due to my business trip, so she texted me that she'll head to the hotel before me. While I was confused, the guests gradually started arriving. Of course, my parents were here, and I could also spot some of my friends as well as relatives and people from work in the crowd. I explained what was going on to the guests who arrived. Some were surprised, some got mad. When I talked to my parents, they said I should discuss it with the hotel again. The hotel staff also found us the staffer who was in charge of our wedding and asked her what was going on. And she told us that my wife contacted them saying she wanted to cancel our wedding. That happened a month ago. She had to pay half of the price for the cancel fee, but the rest was returned to my wife. I didn't know what she did with the $30,000 that was returned to her. I was confused, but the 100 guests we invited were even more confused. I couldn't get in touch with my wife, and my parents-in-law were also not responding. Some got mad and yelled, "Why weren't we having our wedding?" even though they came to the venue on the date that was written in the invitation letter. While I was sincerely apologizing and calming the guests down, my smartphone suddenly rang. My wife was calling.
Huh? Why are you not here yet?
She said in a light tone. Huh? Where are you? It's a nightmare here. When I thought I arrived at the wedding hall, they told me that you canceled our wedding a month ago. The 100 guests we invited are basically lost.
Gosh, don't yell at me in my ear. So here I am calling you before the wedding ceremony.
Before the wedding ceremony? Seriously? When I checked the time, it was 50 minutes before the scheduled time for our wedding.
I didn't change the schedule for our wedding. Isn't it easy to understand that way? The venue is also nearby. I accidentally forgot to tell you, but you can get here by bus and you have plenty of time to travel, so it should be fine.
What are you saying?
See ya. Hurry and come to our new venue. My parents are already here. I'm waiting for you.
She hung up before I could say anything. I explained what was going on to my parents, friends, and colleagues who were looking in my direction with a worried expression. I was breaking out in a cold sweat. But against my expectations, none of them complained or insulted me.
What kind of wife is she? She canceled the wedding without permission and didn't even bother to tell her husband?
What a horrible wife.
Everyone was complaining about my wife instead. I apologized again and again and told the guests where the new venue was. My wife's friends looked dumbfounded and left.
I knew Kathy was selfish. I bet she felt reassured after getting officially married. Her real personality is starting to show.
I can't handle that stupid girl anymore.
At our new wedding venue, there were a lot of empty seats. Most of my wife's friends were gone. That made her mad, and during the wedding, her attitude was horrible. When we finally finished our wedding, my wife bombarded me with insults and complaints. She hysterically said to me,
The guests went home because you didn't care for them enough.
That was what she said, so I obviously had to talk back. What do you think you're doing? You suddenly canceled our wedding, and look at this place that clearly looks way cheaper than our original plan. What is going on?
It's not a big deal. We were planning to have our wedding at where I wanted to anyways. It's just that I chose a different venue.
Stupid! The problem is that you planned it without telling us beforehand.
I forgot to tell you. And the reason why less guests participated is because of their own business. I'm not the reason.
You're definitely one of the reasons. And where did the $30,000 that the hotel returned to you go? This venue looks very cheap, so I assume you didn't use all of the money for this new venue.
I needed some money for my wedding preparations.
My wife wasn't being clear. I knew she was hiding something, so I hired a detective. Then I found out the surprising truth. My wife was dating a different guy even before we got married. My wife had been using the rest of the cancel fee for her lover. After I got evidence for her affair, I called my wife and her parents. Besides my wife, my relationship with my parents-in-law also worsened since our wedding. She was their real daughter, so they always take her side and try to protect her. Her parents tried to protect her again, but after they saw the photos of her having an affair and got to know how she used most of the money without telling me, they apologized.
I'm sorry, Sean. Our daughter really is trouble.
I'm very sorry. We never thought she'd do something like this.
Even when her parents were apologizing on the floor, she didn't look flustered and kept her calm.
I don't care. I'm going to have a wonderful wedding, a real wedding with the guy I really love.
It looks like she's referring to our failed wedding ceremony as fake. So are we getting a divorce?
Yes, I don't mind.
I got divorced from Kathy. Kathy then got remarried with her lover. So, through my lawyer, I demanded her $30,000 as compensation and also demanded that she pay $15,000 that she used up for her lover. Of course, I demanded the guy to pay me $30,000 as compensation too. Kathy and her lover visited me and got on their knees to apologize.
Please don't make us pay for compensation.
Yes, Mr. Ex-husband, we love each other dearly and we were saving up to have a wedding. If you're making us pay $75,000, we won't be able to have a wedding.
I scoffed. You're to be blamed in the first place. It serves you right. First of all, the $15,000 is my money. If you're desperate for help, how about you ask your friends and parents for support?
Stop it! Don't talk about my parents and friends. They all blame me.
Kathy shrieked. Of course they would. I bet they're embarrassed to have a blood relationship with you and be friends with you. Good luck on having a real wedding ceremony. Save up $75,000 to pay me, then save up $60,000 to hold the wedding you always dreamed of having. You'll be able to do both if you save up $135,000. Kathy and her lover mumbled in despair. I heard a rumor saying that they broke up shortly after that before they were able to have their dream wedding. It looks like she won't get to have a real wedding in her lifetime.
My name is Sarah. I'm 24 years old and in my second year of working since moving away from my hometown. I still have a good relationship with my friends from back home and meet up with them regularly. In particular, I have a great relationship with my high school friends and we stay in touch frequently. However, there's one friend I've always had trouble getting along with, Chloe, who was in the same tennis club as me in high school. Chloe's always been a bit boy crazy. She'd act all cute and flirty around guys, but if another girl got close to them, she'd get jealous and cause trouble. She even had a habit of going after her friends' crushes, which slowly drove away all her female friends. In high school, I was so focused on the tennis club and didn't really care about girly stuff, so Chloe never bothered to pick on me. I guess I wasn't even on her radar. Because of that, I ended up being her only female friend back then. After we graduated, we pretty much lost touch, until recently, when she suddenly reached out to tell me she was getting married. After graduating from college, Chloe landed a job at a foreign company thanks to connections from her father, who holds an executive position at a major corporation. Among our old high school classmates, the word was that she'd become even more arrogant after starting work, constantly looking down on others. I assumed the reason she'd stopped reaching out to me was that she didn't want to be associated with an ordinary office worker like me. So I was genuinely surprised when she suddenly contacted me to share her wedding news. Apparently, Chloe's fiancé is Kyle, one of our classmates from high school who is now a successful elite trading company employee. Kyle was the kind of guy who excelled at both academics and sports, and he was super popular with the girls back then. Knowing Chloe, it wouldn't surprise me if she wanted to invite people who knew Kyle back then just to show him off at the wedding. When Chloe asked me to attend, I couldn't give her an answer right away. She even asked if I could bring some of our other friends along. For now, I told her I'd think about it and ended the call. I contacted every friend I could think of who knew Chloe, asking if they'd attend the wedding, but everyone had the same response: no way! Some even commented that Kyle would probably have plenty of his old guy friends there, even if none of Chloe's female friends showed up. It was clear that no one had forgotten the things Chloe had done to them in the past, and there wasn't a single person who actually wanted to see her again. I wasn't thrilled about breaking the news to her, so when I called her, I just said that everyone had other plans. Her reaction was unexpected.
Wow, Sarah, I didn't think this would happen with you. I always thought you were popular, which is why I reached out to you first. Guess I was wrong. What a letdown.
That's when I realized her mean streak hadn't changed at all. When I told her I wouldn't be able to make it either, she sounded genuinely upset.
If none of my friends come, what will his parents think of me?
She went on to explain that it wasn't going to be a big wedding, just a small gathering at a rented space with some food and drinks. She even said I didn't need to bring a gift and begged me to just stop by. In the end, I reluctantly agreed to go. She said it would be super casual, even casual enough for regular clothes. So I figured it wouldn't be too big of a deal to attend. On the day of the wedding, I headed to the hotel Chloe had mentioned, only to find a massive, luxurious-looking venue. I couldn't help but wonder if a place like this could really host the casual gathering she had described, but I decided to head inside anyway. At the reception desk, I told the staff I was there for Chloe's wedding. For a brief moment, one of them glanced at my outfit and their face froze. I was wearing a simple, casual dress and hadn't done anything special with my hair. It crossed my mind that I might have been underdressed, but Chloe had reassured me just the day before that casual clothes were fine, so I assumed everyone else would be dressed the same way. But as soon as I stepped into the waiting room, I realized I was completely out of place. Everyone was dressed in formal wedding attire, elegant dresses, and suits. Chloe's sister approached me and asked, "Excuse me, who are you?" I explained that I had been invited to the wedding, but after checking the guest list, she said bluntly, "There's no seat for you." "What? But I was invited," I said, panicking, and rushed to the bride's waiting room to figure out what was going on. The moment Chloe saw me, she gave a smug, almost gleeful smile. "Oh, you actually came? Well, all the seats are already taken, so you can just head home," she said smugly. Shocked, I asked her what was going on, and she admitted everything. She was upset that none of our friends had agreed to come, so she decided to take it out on me. The casual dress code? A lie to humiliate me. The lack of a seat? That was intentional from the start. Chloe then sneered. "Did you really think someone like you, a regular office worker, would belong at a wedding like this?" I was furious. "That's beyond cruel," I shouted, but Chloe just smirked. "Like you'd even have the guts to stay dressed like that. Just leave already," she said, her tone dripping with mockery. Shaking with anger and humiliation, I stepped out of the room, only to find Kyle standing right outside the door. It seemed he had overheard everything, and he asked me to explain what was going on. I told him everything Chloe had done to me. As I spoke, his expression shifted from shock to disbelief. It was clear he had never suspected that the person he was about to marry could be so cruel. Kyle muttered,
"I've been lied to."
his initial shock quickly giving way to anger. Then he made a bold decision. He was going to call off the wedding. On top of that, he wanted to reveal Chloe's true nature in front of everyone before canceling the ceremony. Following Kyle's lead, I ended up attending the ceremony, still wearing my casual outfit. Somehow, he managed to convince the staff to prepare a seat for me at the last minute. When the ceremony started, I could feel everyone's eyes on me, but I decided to push through it. As the bride and groom entered, Chloe looked at me, clearly shocked. She shouted, "What are you doing here? This is so embarrassing. Go home now." At that moment, Kyle spoke up.
It was Chloe who told Sarah to come in casual clothes to embarrass her. And it was also Chloe who invited her but didn't prepare a seat on purpose to make her feel humiliated.
Everyone in the room went silent at Kyle's words. Chloe quickly responded. "What are you talking about? Did Sarah tell you this? I know what this is. Sarah's just trying to ruin my wedding because she's jealous I'm marrying Kyle. Women's jealousy is terrifying." She turned to the guests, and they all looked at me. Chloe then added, "Do you honestly think I'd invite someone like you to my wedding? You're just an ordinary office worker, and you're not even pretty enough to be here." She insulted me openly. Kyle then said,
Actually, I didn't hear it from Sarah. I overheard everything just now in the waiting room.
In that moment, Chloe went pale and awkwardly said, "You must have misunderstood." Kyle looked at Chloe and said,
I never thought you'd be the type to bully your friends and to insult Sarah in front of everyone. I'm really disappointed. I can't marry you.
He turned and left the venue, clearly disheartened. Chloe called out, "Wait, it's a misunderstanding!" and clung to Kyle, but the people around them just stared at her in disbelief. Chloe's parents came over to me and said,
"We're so sorry. I don't understand why she's like this. We really don't know what's going on with her."
It seemed that even Chloe's parents and relatives had a hard time dealing with her bad behavior. In the end, after learning about Chloe's true nature, Kyle called off the wedding and they broke up. Some of Chloe's father's business associates were at the wedding, so the whole situation ended up embarrassing her parents as well. Chloe's father took it seriously and told her to resign from the company he had gotten her into. Chloe, who had used her job at a foreign company as a way to look down on others, now found it difficult to get another job after her father turned his back on her. She would probably never be able to look down on people again. As for me, on my way home from the wedding, I was approached by one of Kyle's colleagues and we really hit it off. We started dating and a year later, we got married. Now I'm happily living with my husband, an elite businessman. Even though I almost got embarrassed because of Chloe, going to that wedding ended up leading me to meet my husband. So in the end, it worked out for the best. I lived with my husband, just the two of us. My main concern was that my cooking was considered bad. Honestly, I didn't think it was that bad, but whenever my husband ate my food, he would always say,
What is this awful meal? How could you feed me this?
or even spit it out. Of course, I always taste my food while cooking, and since I grew up in a single-parent household, I've been cooking since I was a student. My mother taught me how to season, and I even cooked for friends when they stayed over, but no one ever told me my cooking was bad. Still, my husband would always make a disgusted face after eating, and I started to wonder if everyone had just been too nice and polite to say anything. Not long ago, my husband went to a colleague's house, and when he came back, he immediately said to me,
Today I had my colleague's wife's cooking, and it was like night and day compared to yours. I really must be unlucky to have a wife like you. Ugh, I wish I'd married someone who's good at cooking.
All I could say was, I'm sorry, I really do try my best. Then he replied even more condescendingly,
You need to practice more.
Yes. Every time I heard him say things like that, I became more and more insecure, and eventually I started to hate cooking altogether. One day I found out that my husband's company was holding a family event, and the wives were expected to bring homemade dishes. My husband told me I had to make something, but I didn't want to bring food that he always criticized as bad. So I told him I didn't want to go. However, he snapped back.
That's not an option. If you don't go, I'll be the one embarrassed. Do you think it's better for your cooking to be embarrassing or for me to be embarrassed? Obviously, it's you. Stop whining and make something to bring tomorrow.
Left with no choice, I ended up making something for the event, feeling miserable about it. On the day of the event, I went to the gathering with my husband. The other wives had already set out their dishes, but I froze, terrified that in front of so many people, they might say my cooking was as bad as my husband always claimed. The lady approached me with a kind smile and said, "You're Mr. Parker's wife, right? Did you bring something to share?" Nervously, I replied, I did, but..." and reluctantly placed my dish on the table. To my surprise, the other wives all exclaimed, "Wow! Oh, this looks amazing! It's so beautifully presented, too!" Even though the other wives were complimenting my dish, I was still terrified that once they tasted it, they'd find it awful. That's when my husband, smirking, butted in and said,
Oh, don't let the appearance fool you. This isn't good at all. She's terrible at cooking. I'm always criticizing her, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this ruined everyone's appetite.
He looked like he was enjoying the thought of my cooking being humiliated, and I was horrified. But instead of agreeing with him, the wives kept praising my dish. Then, during lunch, they tried it and exclaimed, "This is amazing! How did you season it? Is there a secret ingredient?" Even the wife of my husband's colleague, the one he'd visited recently, joined in, complimenting my cooking. Before I knew it, wives from other groups started gathering around me, and my table was full of people chatting about my dish. Meanwhile, my husband kept trying to mock me, saying things like,
Her cooking is totally inedible. Seriously.
But his colleagues just laughed at him, saying,
If you think this is bad, there's definitely something wrong with your taste buds.
As the compliments kept coming, my husband's expression grew darker and darker. He spent the rest of the event sulking while everyone else praised my cooking. In the end, I ended up being the center of attention throughout the entire recreation event. But as soon as we got home, my husband exploded with anger, yelling,
Don't get carried away. Your cooking is awful, and no one knows that better than I do. Just because you got a little praise doesn't mean it's any good.
His words hit me hard. I couldn't understand why he felt the need to say such hurtful things, and it left me feeling completely devastated. One day, one lady approached me for a chat. She was the one who had been especially complimentary about my cooking at the recreation event. She said, "Miss Parker, have you ever thought about opening a restaurant? Your cooking is absolutely amazing." "What? Me? No way. Opening a restaurant is something for professionals," I replied, caught off guard. "I honestly think your skills are on par with the pros, and your plating is so elegant. Where did you learn to do that?" "Oh, it's just from copying things I've seen on Instagram," I said, feeling a little embarrassed. "Even so, the fact that you can replicate it so well shows you have real talent. If you ever decide to open a restaurant, I'd be more than happy to invest in it." What? Her offer completely took me by surprise, but part of me couldn't help wondering if my cooking, constantly ridiculed by my husband, might actually be good enough for others to enjoy. So I suggested trying out a one-day pop-up first, and she was excited about the idea. I considered telling my husband, but knowing he'd just dismiss my cooking as awful again, I decided to keep it to myself. With some of the other wives volunteering to help as staff, I decided to rent a space and try a one-day pop-up restaurant. Word about my cooking must have spread because the place was flooded with people, far more than I had expected. Everyone who tried my food had nothing but praise. They said, "This is amazing! Oh, it's such a waste to do only a one-day pop-up. If you need help preparing, we'll pitch in as much as you need. Just open a proper restaurant already." I was overwhelmed with joy and immediately asked the lady who had brought up the idea if she'd help me make it happen. She was more than happy to support me, and everything seemed to be falling into place. Finally, it was time to tell my husband. Luckily, he hadn't heard about the pop-up. But that day, he was in an even fouler mood than usual. During dinner, he slammed my food onto the floor and yelled,
How many times do I have to tell you to stop feeding me this garbage? Don't let a bit of praise go to your head. You should be grateful I even married someone as worthless as you. Now get on your knees and apologize for serving me this crap.
I was stunned, his cruel words cutting deeper than ever before. In that moment, I realized that my husband didn't really care about whether my cooking was good or bad. He was just looking for any excuse to put himself above me, belittle me, and take out his frustrations on me. Then he said,
Why aren't you on your knees apologizing? You know, if you want, we can just get a divorce.
I responded calmly, Fine, let's get a divorce.
Huh? What are you talking about?
He laughed, surprised.
Someone as worthless as you wouldn't survive without me.
I told him I've decided to open a restaurant with the help of one of the wives who's offering to invest, so I don't need you anymore. He didn't know how to react, completely stunned. But I had already made up my mind. I packed my things, left the house, and went to my parents' place. A few days later, I brought him the divorce papers. He angrily filled out the divorce papers, yelling,
Your restaurant is gonna fail, and you'll come crawling back to me. I know it.
But the reality was far from his words. My restaurant was fully booked every day with long lines. There was no way I was going to go back to him. By the way, I later heard from some of the other wives about what my ex-husband had said after the divorce. I had told them about the way he had treated me throughout our marriage. Then word got around to the husbands, and they all said,
So you were emotionally abusing such a great wife who could cook so well? You're the worst! I can't believe we ever worked with someone like you!
He ended up getting completely shunned, couldn't do his job anymore, and his performance dropped so much that he was reassigned to warehouse work. The other wives advised me to get compensation for the emotional abuse, and they introduced me to a lawyer, and I was able to successfully claim what I was owed. My husband, who had always looked down on me, ended up lonely while I was surrounded by supportive people. I'm sure he never saw that coming, but it was entirely his own fault.
I'm a senior high school student. I have a unique collection of hobbies. The collection was rather expensive for a high school student, and it required special care. It took me a year to collect them all. My family wasn't very enthusiastic about it. My sister couldn't believe it and didn't understand at all about my collection. My mother also repeatedly told me to handle them carefully. Of course, I understood everything and even locked my room, although nobody bothered to come in. But one day, a burglar broke into my room and stole my entire collection. It was in the middle of a weekday and I was in school. It was my mother who saw a broken window to my room and reported that my room was ransacked. I was called away during class and hurried home, where I found several police officers searching inside and outside of my house. My room was a disaster. They took some of my video games, an empty piggy bank, and the boxes of my entire collection from the locked shelves. I was devastated. As I said, it was very difficult, and it took a long time for a student to collect these. And now they're all gone, and my room is in complete chaos. As a matter of fact, I just stood there for a while, unable to comprehend the situation. I couldn't figure out why they took my collection. They could make a little money by reselling the games, but why would they take those? I was at a loss looking around the total mess when an officer asked if we could talk. After the initial search of the premises, he suspected that it was the work of professionals. A pro would break part of the window and reach the lock inside rather than breaking the entire glass. He's right. Although they destroyed my room, they only did minimal damage to the window, which looked efficient. To make matters worse, they were unable to take fingerprints or footprints. I was told this could be a difficult case. With all these damages, they can do nothing about it? I was furious, yet there was nothing I could do. But since the stolen goods were sensitive, they needed to report it to the authorities, and they asked for my cooperation. I filed a report and filled out some paperwork at the police station. They told us not to go home that night since they needed a more thorough investigation of my house, so we went to my grandfather's house. My mom received a lot of encouraging messages and emails from our neighbors, and so did I. Seemed like everybody at school knew what happened to us. I also got some messages from my old friends, and it took me a while to respond. A week later, they caught a suspect. While we were having dinner, I got a phone call from the police asking me to come down to the station. When I arrived there with my dad, we were shown into a room with several police officers and a frightening-looking woman with half her face covered in bandages. I couldn't help but feel an eerie feeling about her bandages. As soon as I sat down opposite her, the scary woman started screaming and pointing at me. She kept yelling at me and calling me names. I couldn't make out half of what she was saying. But to summarize, it was something like this.
I got the information that you keep some valuable items in the house, but it turned out to just be a strange powder. I didn't see the use of it, so I threw it in the trash and it exploded. I got burned, too. It's all your fault and I'm the victim here. You owe me an apology and compensation.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After all, she's a professional burglar and had broken into my room. I didn't know what to say. But she didn't stop there. She screamed, shaking her hair that was sticking out from the bandages. It was a horrific sight. It was then that I realized that my collection could be extremely dangerous and flammable if in the wrong hands. The collection of mine that I kept collecting for the whole year were flammable solids, such as aluminum powder, sulfur, and red phosphorus. They're classified as Class II dangerous goods. They can ignite easily when handled improperly. I got a license for Class II hazardous materials handler in a high school extracurricular class, but I was cautious and only bought the permitted amount. It could have gone much worse than a burn if the sizable amount of those substances were stored together. But I labeled the bottles dangerous. It was this woman who stole them. I couldn't take it anymore, so I rationalized it to her. Then she got upset and reacted badly.
How would I know all that? You're a kid. It's creepy that someone has a collection like that. People like you will become an arsonist one day. You still owe me an apology and compensation. I'm a woman. Look at my face. You did this to me.
She continued to curse and insult me. When she almost jumped on me, she was stopped by the officers. I couldn't find the words to say, so I decided to leave, making it clear that I would assert my rights and press charges on her. After she calmed down somewhat, she started to talk to an investigator. She simply thought that all she needed was not to get caught, and she continued breaking and entering. The police officer who saw my room suspected it wasn't the job of an amateur. Further investigation revealed more similar cases, and they seized the stolen goods from her house. Later, I learned that the woman was a mother of a 9th grade daughter who was a classmate of my sister's. Fortunately, the daughter wasn't home when the fire started. She was also an infamous little thief at school. My sister has been a victim more than once or twice, but despite the circumstances suggesting she was the culprit, there was no evidence or witnesses, and she was never formally charged. But everybody knew. Without evidence, the school couldn't do much or risk being sued. I think like mother, like daughter. The husband of the burglar lived in another city for work, but their house being half burned down, he rushed home. He was furious to learn all of it. My mom told me that the woman came to our house to apologize when I wasn't home. Later, she was officially sentenced and would spend some time in jail. Along the way, she learned about her daughter's inherited trait of kleptomania, and the daughter was to transfer to a new school. And her husband divorced her. I suppose he'll watch over his daughter now. As for the stolen, dangerous goods, I was within my rights and stored them according to the rules and regulations, so I wasn't blamed. Only, I got a warning from a firefighter. Even though it was her fault, half the house was burned down and someone got injured. The chief of firefighters said, "I want you to be aware of how dangerous it is to keep those at home." I never imagined something like this could actually happen with my collection. It was an astonishing event in my life. On the bright side, a repeat offender was caught.
I had been a victim of domestic violence from my ex-husband and had returned to my parents' home to take refuge. Living there where my father had passed away, my older brother and his wife, their kids were already grown and out of the house, and my younger brother, who was in his 40s and had been single until last year. After moving back, I realized something shocking. My mother was what you'd call a classic nightmare mother-in-law. She had been tormenting my older brother's wife, and even when he tried to intervene, it didn't seem to help. Then my younger brother met a woman at the gym, a woman in her late 30s, and decided to marry her. After their wedding, they moved out. That's when my mom turned her attention to meddling in their lives too. My younger brother's wife is a doctor who graduated from the National Defense Medical College. She's sturdy, calm, and reserved, with a background worlds apart from my mom's. She grew up on a farm, while my mom was a city girl who loved shopping and fashion. She just couldn't understand why her son chose someone like her.
I just don't get why he chose someone like her,
my mom would often complain.
If it were up to me, he could have had so many better options. I must have such bad luck. She must have tricked him.
She'd grumble constantly. The reality is, my younger brother worked in sales for a subsidiary of a manufacturing company, lived at home well into his 40s, and had no savings. If anyone was to blame for not getting married sooner, it was him. His wife, on the other hand, might have had plain style, but she was the kind of woman who looks effortlessly cool, with a clean and polished vibe. She's not unattractive at all, yet my mother would say things to her like,
"You are terrible at makeup, aren't you? When you look so plain, it makes my son look bad too, so try harder, okay? And just because you're decent at your job doesn't mean you're a complete woman. If you can't handle housework, you're not good enough. Do you get that?"
Even in front of me, my mother displayed some seriously toxic mother-in-law behavior. And my younger brother, despite knowing his wife was being mistreated, he was too caught up in the sudden attention from our mom, who had always favored the brilliant eldest son until now, so he didn't do anything to stop her. He even started buying into her narrative, and he had mentally rewritten himself as the poor guy stuck marrying an older, plain woman who threw herself at him. Watching all this, I was constantly on edge. I couldn't stop worrying about how things would turn out, and I felt so sorry for my sister-in-law. I couldn't help but feel guilty, too, for the situation she was in. Things got even worse after my younger brother and his wife moved into the 4-bedroom Riverside Tower apartment near the station that my sister-in-law had been renting out until then. She had bought it during her single years as a form of savings, and since she had worked in different regions, she rented it out. When my mom saw the apartment, she went completely off the rails, dreaming of a luxurious co-living arrangement in the city. She started showing up uninvited almost daily, cooking meals for my younger brother, attempting to redecorate the apartment, and generally behaving like she owned the place. Even though it was my sister-in-law's apartment, my mother started saying things like,
"It may have been your apartment at first, but now that you're married, it belongs to my son, and that means it's mine, too. Of course, I should be able to do whatever I want with it. You're always working, neglecting my son, so I'll just have to live here with you. You should be grateful. Oh, and naturally, when I need care in the future, you'll be the one to take care of me. That's what a daughter-in-law is for. You're good for nothing but work, so just work yourself to the bone for me and my son."
She said all this to both my sister-in-laws and us. My older brother and his wife just stayed out of it, and no matter how much I tried to intervene, it didn't matter. After all, why would they listen to the loser daughter who had moved back home? Meanwhile, my younger brother was loving the attention from our mom and didn't stop her. For 6 months, this chaos continued. Through it all, my sister-in-law remained calm, never fighting back. My mom, getting frustrated, said during the summer break when everyone had gathered,
"I've told you over and over since you married into this family, you need to quickly change the ownership of the apartment to your husband's name. People are looking at him with disapproval because it's still under your name."
In reality, no one cares whose name the property is in, so there's no way he's being looked at like that. I think she just wanted to have the control she'd have if the apartment were in my younger brother's name, and she probably thought it would be easier to kick his wife out if it came to that. My younger brother's wife, hearing this, simply said, "I'm sorry," and lowered her head. My younger brother, looking flustered, said nothing. My older brother and I tried to intervene, but since my younger brother's wife didn't react, there was no argument. And we moved on to the dinner preparation. While my younger brother's wife and my older brother's wife were cooking, my mom kept grumbling, so I ended up yelling at her to stop. My older brother's wife, seeming to think she would be safe as long as my mother went to my younger brother's wife, whispered to my mom, "Why don't you live with the sweet younger sister-in-law, Mom?" The atmosphere in the kitchen was thick with tension. Then, holding a kitchen knife, my younger brother's wife quietly said with a smile,
"The only reason I was able to go to university was because my mother caused a scene with a sharp knife."
As she grinned, we were all shocked.
"My family was one where women didn't need an education, and I wasn't even allowed to read the newspaper, so there was no way I could go to university. But my mother, with a fierce look on her face, threatened my grandfather, saying, "If you don't let her go to university, I will stab you and this child, and then I'll die too." And my grandfather actually had his arm cut. Whenever I slacked off in my studies, my mother would threaten me with the same terrifying look and say, "Do you want me to stab you and die?" I studied like my life depended on it. After seeing my grandfather's blood, I truly thought I was going to be killed, and I was so scared I couldn't sleep at home.
We were all stunned by the sudden, outrageous story from my younger brother's wife,
frozen with our mouths hanging open.
Meanwhile, she kept smiling and said,
"When I left home, my mother told me, 'Don't ever come back. Build your own wealth with your own money, and if anyone tries to take it from you, fight like you're going to kill them.' I haven't seen her much since then."
After that, she turned to my mom and said,
"Also, about you, Mom."
What is it?"
"You make it sound like living together and taking care of the elderly is easy, but unless you're prepared, it's not. My mother was the kind of daughter-in-law who was beaten by my grandparents when she was young, even having her face and fingers broken, and they didn't let her go to the hospital. Yet she still took care of them at home until the very end."
Wow, that's amazing.
My mother worked so hard. My grandmother used to be really selfish and made things hard for her every day, but over time, it started happening less and less. I guess my grandmother, being old, started out by causing trouble and making my mother's life difficult. But when my mother tried to stop her, my mother must have used too much force and accidentally broke my grandmother's hand. Old people's bones are fragile after all.
After that, my mom, my sister-in-law, and I were all silent. Meanwhile, my younger brother's wife, with a slight smile at the corner of her mouth, kept chopping the vegetables decisively. During the meal, my mother was still acting uneasy, but my younger brother's wife, with her usual gentle smile, took care of my younger brother, who was completely unaware, with such attentive care. Her mother must have taught her, through her own experience, to earn everything she needed to live on her own. She had the courage to be disliked and even kicked out of the house to make sure her daughter became independent. The depth of her mother's love, her willingness to risk everything to raise her daughter, really moved me. I was quietly touched by the way my younger brother's wife's mother had put her whole heart into raising her daughter. I was really impressed by my younger brother's wife's strength in breaking the cycle of dysfunction in her family-in-law all on her own. From that point, I decided I wouldn't dwell on the past and the domestic violence anymore, and I made up my mind to follow her example. I found a job quickly and I moved out. A lot of time passed, and when I went back to my parents' house after a year, I was shocked by how much my mom had shrunk, both physically and emotionally. She was now focused on taking care of my younger brother's wife. I guess after imagining what her future might look like, she was so horrified that she decided to change. My younger brother, after hearing about what happened from my sister-in-law, seemed to have woken up. He started trying to show off what a good husband he was to his wife. As for how my mom will be taken care of in the future, I have no idea. But we all get old, and it's coming eventually. We certainly don't have the money to put her in a care facility. So it'll be interesting to see if she can redeem herself before that happens. All she can do is try her best to make sure her daughter-in-law likes her so she doesn't end up regretting it.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.